Welcome to another session of one of my most memorable teaching experiences. The students we meet are gems in the raw as they wait to be polished by us. The timid or the bold, the coarse in the mold, shine as a teacher's love enfolds. Again, it is a pleasure to be with you today. Remember to send in your questions, which I will answer in subsequent sessions. Another of my memorable teaching experiences had a little to do about teaching, but more to do about learning the student. What happens to the student as they come to the classroom? At that time, I was at Northwestern High School in Prince George's County, Maryland. I love Northwestern. I enjoy teaching there. It was difficult for some because at the time we had gangs in the school. That was a wake-up call. I had no idea what that was, but we had to go to school and perform. Interestingly enough, I had no fear. I didn't see them. They were not bad to us. No one spoke rudely or out of turn. They were just there. We're not sure how these gangs operated. And so once a student came to me and said, "Miss," some of these students were so sweet, "Miss, I have to go away for a while, and I want to know how could I get my grade up?" And I said, "Well, where are you going? How can I help?" He said, "I have to take care of my mother. And so I'm going to be at home." I said, "Okay, let me know how long you're going to be away. You have to bring a note from home asking for this excused absence." I said, "And if it's a personal matter, you just say it's a very personal matter. You don't have to explain it all out to us. I will help you." And so he did bring his letter. I think he wrote the letter and he got someone else to sign it. But at any rate, he was going to be away for 3 weeks. I didn't see him for the 3 weeks. I was teaching geometry. And so I prepared his lessons. I told him how he should work. And I said, you're going to be on your own. I'm not there to teach you, but you can send through another student questions you may ask of me. I'll send explanations as best I can. He said, "That's okay, miss. I'll find a way. I'll get it done." And so he was away for the 3 weeks. Now, this is high school. And this was a young man who I believe was about 17 years old. This was a 10th grade, so he was a little bit behind, but that's okay. We can handle that. And so he left with his lessons. I didn't see him. And one day he returned. And he said to me, "Miss, I'm back, and thank you. And I did all my homework." He was so anxious to show me all that he had done. It was pretty accurate too. So I made an appointment. I accepted the work first, and then I made an appointment. I said, "I still have to sit and talk to you. I'm going to ask you questions about what you did so that I can clarify anything if need be." He did make the appointment, and the appointment was for after school, so I could sit with him and go through what he did, where he was wrong, what was right, and so on. He did pretty good for someone on his own. I asked him, "Did you have help?" He said, "No, miss." I also asked him if he needed any specific explanations. How was it that he got so much of the work correct? And he said, "Well, miss, I took our textbook, and they are explaining a lot in the book. So I followed the book. I said, well, that's really great. And then he sat down. He said, Miss, I really have to tell you why I was away. I need to tell you. And he said, my mom was abused by my dad. And I got mad one day and I struck my dad. And during the time I was home, I was confined. He said, I had an ankle bracelet and they said I could come to school, but I didn't want to come to school with that. Everybody would tell. I said, okay, all right. I'm sorry to hear about that. He said, but they took my dad away. I said, oh, is he going to come back? He said, no, they made sure that he won't come back because they put him in jail. And I needed to stay at home to make sure that my mother was safe until my dad went to jail. I said, oh my God. I said, would you like me to say a prayer with you? He said, oh, Miss, that's great. Because, I'm Hispanic and we go to church all the time. I said, okay. So I sat down and I said a simple prayer. He thanked me. He was in awe of what I did for him. And he made sure that he took more notes so that he would never have to miss another lesson. What an awesome thing. That child I will always remember. Here's another short story about another child that I do remember. All the time I think about her. This was a young lady, and I met her while I taught at Holy Redeemer Catholic School. I was teaching in 8th grade at the time. She came to school every day with scratches and marks on her all over, every day. We didn't talk about it. Now, we knew that she came from a neighborhood where drugs was being sold. At the time, drugs was a big deal. It was really breaking through and taking over the neighborhood. And this specific neighborhood in Washington, D.C., had a lot of drugs and gang violence. We actually went to school one day when the police were cleaning up the evidence of a shooting. Someone got shot right in front of the school gate, and the police, they were still cleaning up body parts and things. They allowed us to get into the schoolyard, and they hurried with what they were doing. That was the time. There were many drive-by shootings as well during that time when I taught in Washington, D.C. And this young lady always had scratches. I never knew why. But, they attended school. We let them sit in class. She paid attention. She was not the best student, but she really worked hard. And so one day she said to me, it was a Friday afternoon, she said, Miss, you won't see me again. I said, why not? She said, I'm going to die tonight. And I said, oh my God. I said, how are you going to die? She said, I'm going to take my life. I've had enough. And so she explained to me that the way she had to get to school was to fight off people off of her and her younger sister. She had a younger sister attending the Catholic school as well. They fought their way through the gangs because these people would accost them, getting their way, and try to touch them and make them buy or whatever it is they did. And that's what she explained very briefly, not a whole lot of an explanation. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, give me a phone number. I'm going to call you when I get home. And I'm going to call you often over this weekend. And I would like to see you on Monday. I need you in class. And I went home. I called her, spoke to her, short conversation. I said a prayer. I don't even remember what I did or what I said. I just needed to talk to this child. I spoke to her 2 or 3 times before I went to bed on Friday. I woke up Saturday. I called her all during the day. I called her and I said, "How are you doing?" "I'm fine, miss." She never let on that she was worried or in a bad way. Called her Saturday, called her Sunday, all through Sunday, called her Sunday night. And I said, "Am I going to see you tomorrow?" She said, "Yes, miss, I'll be there." Oh my goodness, she was there. She came to school. And I was so happy to see her. We didn't talk much. I would just look at her and I would say, "Everything okay?" "Yes, miss." We finished the school year. And she said to me, "Miss, can you sit next to me at graduation?" And I said, "Well, I have to ask permission. I have to ask permission because, you sit in rows and it goes in order of your name and all that." And so she said, "Miss, I don't care what you do. I want you to sit next to me." So I did ask my principal if I could sit next to her. I said, she asked me, and I want to oblige. I never told him, our conversation with the fact that she said she was not going to come back. I never shared that with anyone except my family. I told my family I had to unburden one way or the other. And so I sat next to her at her 8th grade graduation. I just cried. I mean, the tears were coming down my eyes, and people thought I was just emotional about the graduation. I was emotional about her, that beautiful young lady. I don't know where she is right now, and I hope that she is doing well. I hope that she grew up and that she was able to survive that awful time in her life. But that experience, which was during my teaching, had very little to do with teaching. And both of these had very little to do with teaching. A young lady in Washington, D.C., a young man in Maryland. Again, thank you for listening. Send me your questions. Bye-bye.